HTML is basically everything that is going to be in a web page. So if we look at the inspect element, and if we go into inspecting a web page, if we click that inspect element, it's going to be all of the code that we see in a web page. So basically, there's a couple elements of HTML that we're going to go through. So an element is part of one HTML document, and the document is basically that code that we see. So it could be a piece of text, like a paragraph or a header. It could be an image, a video, or a link that takes us to a different website. To declare where an element starts and ends, you must enclose them in these tags, and each feature is unique to each kind of tag. Oh, I'm trying to make it, okay. I'm just gonna put that there for now. If there's a lot of questions and I can't see them, please just feel free to yell at me. So most elements need an opening tag and a closing tag, and I'm going to change that most to all. So everything we're going to be using today requires an opening and a closing element, and that tells the computer that what's inside that these closing and opening closing elements is our content. So it's like a sandwich. You have the two pieces of bread, and whatever is in the middle is your contents of your sandwich. That's basically the same thing. One of the examples that we're going to go over today is a paragraph. Very, very simple. Paragraph. P, that denotes your paragraph. One of the big things you want to note with HTML, though, is that you have an opening tag, as shown here, and a closing tag. Your opening tag is always going to be caret bracket, element that you're talking about, so like a letter, a series of characters, closing caret, all of the things that are in that, and then you're going to have your caret, your closing bracket. Think of this as like the door that closes your element tag. You always need this to close the element tag, and you only need it in the closing tag. And then that same set of characters, and then your closing caret tag. Does that make sense to everyone? Perfect. I'm going to move on here. Okay, so an attribute. An attribute gives additional information about an element, just like an attribute of an object in the real world gives us more information about that object in the real world. So attributes add style, links, image sizes, classes, IDs, etc. This is mostly going to be, when you think of style stuff, most of this is going to be under CSS, which is cascading style sheets, which is going to be all of your pretty things about a web page, but we can use it in HTML for things like images, which is an example here. Any HTML element can have attributes. Attributes are always declared in the opening tag, and they're usually in the format attribute equals a given value. So in this one, I should have thought about this before I said all. They are right, it is most. So this is your example of your image tag, and we're going to go through this because this is one of the most unique tags we see in HTML. So first, we're going to have our opening caret, same thing we always have. Our tag, which is our series of characters or characters, just like the P from the paragraph tag. This is IMG, so image. So when you think about it SRC, I know that can sound like really weird, but if you think about it as source, we have image, the source of the image equals this link. And this is how you insert every single image into HTML files, because what you do is you say, okay, caret, I have an image. That image's source is this link. And it's just a URL or a JPEG link or other image file link name, insert here. And it's just within those two brackets. So that's this is my source, this is how to call it, and then you just close it off with your caret bracket and your slash, and that's basically it. It's just as simple as that. You can really just take a link off of Google Images, put it in between those two brackets, and call it your image, and that will insert it into your HTML file. So the structure of HTML documents, we're not going to get into this too much right now, but document, root, your HTML, so your HTML file, and then head, title, href stuff, which is, you'll see that when we get into the Replit file, but it's basically just like your standard stuff, body, elements, and then text, header, all that stuff. So structure of an HTML example, you're going to see this in the example we're going to use today. Doc type HTML. What does this mean? This means that our file is an HTML file. It's not a Java file. It's not a Python file. It's not a JavaScript file. It's an HTML file. So doc type is HTML. 1, this line is talking about. 2, HTML. So first of all, we're going to note that we have HTML opening tags and HTML closing tags. Just like we have everything else, there's an opening and a closing. This denotes that anything inside of those 2 tags is HTML code. It will be read by the compiler as HTML code. It'll be read by the browser as HTML code. So these are really, really important to have. Second, head. The head tag includes metadata about the web page or other introductory information. You're going to notice that, like, I don't know, the head is kind of a weird one. We're not going to touch on it too much for now because you're not going to really need it, but know that it doesn't really give you content. So the head is not really showing up on the screen as anything. It's not like a header. So this H1 is a header. And this is the header that we see, and this prints on the screen, welcome, as a header. The one tricky thing about headers is that the number that is here in the opening and closing bracket for headers matters. So I had a really good example of this, but basically play around with it when you're making your websites today. The headers matter because they change what the header looks like. So you can always change it back in CSS, but headers come with their own CSS, like just inherently. It's not like that bad. Like it's like header 1 is bigger than header 2, and it goes all the way up to header 6. So for easy CSS work, if you think your header's too big, just decrease the number. And if you think your header's too small, increase the number. If you're having a little bit of trouble with that, call me over when we're doing Replit and I'll be happy to help you. Body. So this is the body of your web page. It comes below your headers and it comes above your footers. There's no example of the footer here, but your footer is anything that's at the bottom of your web page. Anything that's in the body is going to be like the middle, the meat of your web page. And example, paragraph. This is text. Now, I know we talked about how the headers, how the number here matters. In paragraphs, we don't have that in HTML. All paragraphs, regardless of the number here, look exactly the same. You could have paragraph 155 and it would look exactly the same as paragraph 1. So that's just something to keep in mind. Headers, the number here matters. And yes, hyperlink. What would be the difference between like an H6 versus a paragraph? Would they be the same size? They're a little different. The header 6 is a little bit more bold. I mean, if you're really interested, just play around with it. Honestly, the whole point of web pages is just to play around with it. But yeah, so definitely play around with it. But I mean, if you don't like it, you can always just take it out. But yeah, it's a little bit more bold. So linking CSS and JavaScript. CSS and JavaScript can be used in HTML in 2 different ways. Internally in the same file. That's why we have our HTML opening and closing tags, because we can use HTML and CSS in the same file. So we want to differentiate between our HTML and CSS. Or externally in different files, which is going to be the example we're using today. So you'll notice when I go through the Replit example that the HTML file will have a link to both the JavaScript file, don't worry about that today, and the CSS file. Probably don't worry about that today. And you'll see how we're able to link the files externally to the HTML file so that all of it is referring to the same web page. Externally is recommended. That's what we're using today. More organized and different HTML files can use the same CSS and JavaScript files. So how do we link the files? Great question. Oh, perfect. So linking, this is exactly what you're going to see in our Replit example today. So this is the code right here. It's kind of in a little pink box. So it says script file, source equals script.javascript. Now, I remember we had a question about what's between the brackets, does this, or the quotation marks, excuse me. The quotation marks, does that matter? For this, it does. Because what is in between these quotation marks to link your files must be the exact same as your file name. Otherwise, it won't link because it will be trying to look for a file that doesn't exist. So that's why we need to have the exact same file. An easy trick to do that is I always like to use my HTML file. So if I have index.html, I'm going to have index.javascript and index.css so that I know all of these files are linked to that specific HTML file so I don't get confused. But since we're only working with one HTML file today, it's okay, just be careful with it. But I think the default is script.javascript and style.css. We have a question. What does meta stand for? Ooh. Oh, I think you can still see meta on this. No. Oh, yes, meta. So meta is, we're going to use it in this example. So meta is an inherent attribute, well, not an attribute, but it's like an inherent line. And basically, it's bringing in like an attribute of the site. So basically, it's like, it's kind of like the overlying CSS, but I would rather call it principles than styling. So if we see here, meta is telling us that our content has to be the width of the device. It can't be larger and it can't be shorter because that just makes for easy viewing experience. This meta is telling us that our character set of the site, which links into CSS, is UTF-8, which is a given character set that's probably in our CSS file. So meta is like our overarching rules that our site has to go by. Yeah, so like meta is going to be in basically everything. Don't worry about it for today. Here, let's show the Replit example because I feel like that will help us more than looking at this. So this is your Replit file that we're all going to use today. You're going to fork it, but it's going to be yours. I made a starter site for you all. It's about Harry Potter, but you know, it works. So this meta is linking our character set. I don't really have any CSS in here. I just put some sample, but the meta is only going to be found in the like HTML file, but whatever it's linking could be in like other files. So, I mean, this is like a standard character set, UTF-8. It's like a standard like web browser friendly character set. Character set, if you've noticed, not every single web file out there is one font, right? I have one font here. I have a different font in my Google Slides. I have a different font for this run button. Not every single web thing is the same font. A character set is what kind of allows us to dictate not only the characters we're using, but like also that font. So, oh, sorry. That's completely wrong. That's font family. Character set is the characters we're using. So are we using Cyrillic letters? Are we using the Spanish alphabet? Are we using the Greek alphabet? Are we using English, like the Anglican alphabet? Like what are we using? That's our character set. Yes, so it's the letters, like the specific alphabet we're using. I'm so sorry, that was really confusing. I didn't explain that well. But yes, so that's our character set. And then our meta is basically just like bringing that in, telling the computer, this is the character set we're specifically using, recognize these characters. I see chat. So I think this is just an example, but I mean, with device width, like if you're talking generally, like height doesn't really matter, right? Because if we're scrolling through a web page, our dictated height is like our web page is going to be longer than our computer, right? But we can scroll down.
Right.
So our height isn't necessarily a factor, but our width matters. Because if our width is 500 feet long and my laptop screen is 15 inches, it's not going to work. So by making width equals device width, we can have this rectangle that is the standard width, so our content is able to show up on screen. But height doesn't matter because we can just scroll through and adjust height as we see fit.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, then why isn't content in a separate meta?
Honestly, it's for simplicity's sake because this meta is talking about the viewing. So like name viewport, like this is like the viewing meta, and then the content of that meta is how we're able to view the given web page. We always say href just because it's easier, but totally go for href. I'm just trying to find where the given attribute href. Href is like a weird one. I'm trying to see, I might have a better example of it in my Replit to show you. Here. This is an href. So this is inserting a link, which is like the challenge for today. So hrefs are always enclosed in the a tag. So this is my href. I have an a tag with this, but it closes over here. So href, so a open, we leave the tag open because hrefs are within one opening tag. They're kind of weird like that. They're an exception of HTML, but it's how we insert links into other web pages. So it's how we are able to have multiple web pages on the same web page. So say you're on Amazon and you want to click the checkout button. The checkout button is an href button because the checkout window is not the same window that you just bought slippers in, right? So href is how we are able to link sites together. So href, this is my link. It's like the example, like we linked Harry Potter because it's a Harry Potter example site. So this is our href link to the site. And then below that, we have what it would say if somehow the link didn't show, because you always want to have an alternate, something goes wrong. So below that, it says summary. And that's what would show. Oh, no, that's not the alternate. Sorry. Summary is what shows as the link. So I'm going to refresh this and you're going to see the web page. I have to run it. Perfect. So this is my href right here. Href, it says summary, but it is my href because if I click on it, it's going to open Wikipedia because that's my href and it linked the sites together. So href is our linking bridge between one site and another. So that's our tag to do that. Well, not our tag, but it's our operator to do that. Our tag is the A. I was going to put these in, but I think we can go through it. Body tags. What goes in a body tag? Can someone tell me? I'll look in chat too to see if anyone had said it in the chat. Body text. Yeah, so body is like the meat of our website. We can have paragraphs, we can have headers, but that's what goes inside the body tags. Paragraph tags, what goes in there? A paragraph. And what attributes do you need to use to link CSS to HTML? Href, so what I said before, href is our bridge from one to another. Here, we're using href to link our CSS sheet to our HTML sheet. We can also use it to link our one web page to another, but they can do a lot of different things, but think of them as bridges linking one thing to another. And a rel is like the name. It's like, it's hard to explain, but you don't need to worry about it right now. The most thing you're going to have to worry about is the href because that's inserting a link in there. It's like rel is like how it's like referred to basically. So we're going to make a web page today. Is everyone excited about it? Honestly, it's a really fun workshop. Because if you copy and paste it, you're editing the communal one. Can everyone see my screen again? We're going to go through forking it. Okay, great. We're going to see this little arrow right here. Can everyone see that? We're going to click it. And we're going to hit this button. It says fork. Yes? Everyone sees that. Perfect. Yes? Can everyone see that? Awesome. Once you click that button, see, it opens a new one. See how it changed to part 1-3? This is now my own Replit. No one can see it except for me. This is the original. Once you forked it, I want you to close the original because that means that you have all the code you need right here and you're not editing anyone else's by accident. Forking it means that you're basically taking the one that was given, you're making an identical copy, and then that identical copy is unique to you. So the file that I gave you is access to everyone. It's accessed publicly. So that means even after this workshop, you want to go back to it, you're more than welcome to do so. By forking it, you're creating your own unique copy of that file that you can edit without changing the original file, so that the original file maintains its like coding integrity, because we don't want to have that file be all messed up and then people are looking at it for reference and then H tags are all wrong and then paragraphs are a little bit weird. So we want to make sure that that is maintaining the same. Can you fork any code? In Replit specifically, or like just in general? In general. So a lot of the code builders are, so I mean, I've used, at least for HTML and CSS, I've used Mozilla Thimble, I've used Glitch, I've used Replit. Every single one of those services are going to allow you to fork it. They might not calling it forking it. They might call it making a copy. They might call it making a reference, but every single one of those services have allowed you to do that. Now, in terms of like, I have a question here that's about those gray tags. Those are not tags. Let's talk about them. I'm going to share my screen again. Thumbs up if we can see my screen. Awesome. So I think what that comment is referring to is these little gray text blurbs. These are not tags. These are comments. So comments are really, really useful when we're coding because it allows us to understand our code just in like plain simple English. So this comment is saying import the web page's style sheet, because that's what this line of code does. I see a chat. Okay. Yeah, so that's what this line of code does. So these comments, how you make a comment is you do caret, exclamation point, dash dash. I mean, the dash dash isn't necessary. That's just because we wanted to have that centered. But it's caret, exclamation point, close caret. And anything within the carets is considered your comment. It doesn't affect how the code runs, and it's only visible to you, the person who's coding. And it basically just tells you whatever you want it to tell you. So I could edit my comment to say, fluffy bunnies are amazing. But that doesn't really give me a whole lot of information about my code. So coders often use comments to just tell us what is happening with the given segment of code. So you can use them as often or as little as you want. You could have no comments in your code and it would run completely the same as if you had 500 comments. So comments are just really there for the coder to understand what's going on, or it's for if the coder wants to share their code with people, we can put comments in to let the other people know what's going on with the code. Now, while I have, yes, I see another chat. What's going on? How can I center my heading? That's a great question. I'm going to give people a little bit of time. Centering your heading is something that happens in CSS. So we're not going to really touch on that today because we didn't do any CSS coding. But if you go into style.css, which you also have access to because you forked the file, body, H1, image, width, font style, color, background color. These are very, very basic. So play around with them. But if you go, I'm going to give you a hint. And if you still can't figure it out, come back to me after I've helped her find the Replit file. But I'm going to give you a hint that says you have to put something in here that tells you about the margins on either side of the header. So that's all I'm going to say for now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I want you guys to go into the file, and I want you to take everything that's like black text. So you'll see like black text, it says Harry Potter, talks about all about Harry Potter. I want you to change all of that. I want you to make it a web page about something that interests you. It could be your favorite food, your dog, your favorite class at school. It could be about anything. And I want you to make a web page that tells me about that thing. So this is the website right here. This is the link. Basically, if you want to change that link, I want you to copy and paste whatever website link you want into that href. I'm going to change it because I think I'm going to do it on camera. So dogs. Dogs are great. Love dogs. First link that comes up, dogs Wikipedia. So I want to change that Harry Potter link to the link about dogs because I'm sick of Harry Potter. I want dogs. Oh my gosh, I like can't do this because, okay, there we go. So I don't want Harry Potter anymore. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to make sure that I have my 2 quotation marks still there. And I want to center my cursor in the middle of those 2 quotation marks. Then I'm going to Control V, paste my new link in there, and then I'm going to go to this summary. That's what the word says in order to click on the link, and I'm going to make it so it says like link about dogs. So that's what changes it. I saw that there was a chat. So how do we change images? Great question. I'm going to do that now to show everyone. So if you want to know how to change an image, pop back into the Zoom meeting. We're going to do that really quick. So we're going to use our example of dogs again. Hold up. Let me refresh the page, the Replit page, so you guys can understand what I just did for Emanuela, who asked the question about inserting the link. Yes. Do website need to cite the sources of images? That's a really good question. For this, no, because, you know, like, if you're just using it for fun, like, no, that's fine. Always make sure if you want to see your web page, you have to click run and then do that. So Emanuela, I don't know if you're still here, but basically our link was this, and I changed it. So this is what it says, but this is the link it goes to. So that's how you change a link. Okay, perfect. That's how you would change a link. So I hope that kind of made sense. Oh, shoot, wrong thing. Sorry, my bad. We're going to share the screen again. Perfect. Okay. Now, next question, changing images. Awesome, let's do that now. So we're gonna go back to our use of dogs. We're gonna go to images, I'm trying to find one that has like not a whole lot of, because a lot of these, perfect, this one. So I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna find an image I want on Google. I'm gonna copy, so I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna play copy image address. Okay, we're gonna copy image address. Click. Then I see chats, I'm gonna get those in 2 seconds. If we see image source equals, same thing as the web page, we're gonna go everything in between those 2 quotation marks, I want you to delete it. Delete it. And then we're gonna paste our new image link, which is really long because it's an image source link. Why is it so long? Didn't realize it was that long. Okay, we're gonna Control Z, but basically you wanna paste your image source link. Okay, let's try this one. I'm trying to find one that has like a short one that we can use, but it's like not really working all that well because a lot of these have just like really long image links for no reason. Anyway, sorry about that. So we're gonna paste our new image link in there. It's gonna be long, it's gonna be gross looking, but that's usually how image links are. Then this is our alt text. Our alt text is what shows up if an image doesn't render. So we're gonna change that to like picture of a dog, because that's what this image is, a picture of a dog. Then you're gonna see right now in my web page, it was a picture of the Harry Potter cast because that's what my original image link was. If I refresh it, or I have to run it, it's a picture of a dog now because we changed our image link to the link that was like the image source link, or not the image source link, the image link itself. So yeah, so this is our Google submission form. If you want to submit your website, that's really fine. You do not have to do it now. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Thank you everyone for pointing that out to me. So that's our submission form. You do not have to do it right now. Totally take some time, you know, play around with your stuff, have fun with it. But yeah, take some time, but that is our submission form if you guys want to submit it. And yeah, if you want to exit out, you have something to go do, you want to eat dinner, you want to get a snack, totally fine. I'll be here for a little bit more time, answer your guys' questions, help out, but I'm going to stop recording right now because it is the end of our time. So yeah.